So now we're into the nuts and bolts of actual tax law training. Okay, so what I've done in the next, let's see, in video 5, 6, 7, and 8, so in the next 4 videos, I've broken up the tax laws training into pieces. So with video 5, we're going to look at filing basics. We're going to look at the economic impact stimulus payments and how that affects what we're doing, and along with the recovery rebate credit. We're going to look at the Affordable Care Act and the 1095A form, and then we're going to do 2 basic exam questions. It's going to be basic exam question 3 and 4 in this particular video here. So with filing basics, okay, what I'll do here is I will go back to my my training guide and then my resource guide that you guys all have that resource guide, but the training guide, if you want it, that's where we'll start, is with the who must file and who should file. We'll deal with some identity concerns. We'll deal with what Social Security numbers are and what ITIN are. Okay, we'll look at e-filing and due diligence. Both of those things are pretty self-explanatory, but I think it's something that needs to be said. So that's something we'll go through. Okay, then what I'll do is when I'm done with those things, I'll say, all right, now's a good time to take a break. And you can go ahead and pause the video and know you're not missing anything. So I want to make sure that there's a good break for you guys in between the major pieces of the videos that I'm doing. That way you don't get so bored. And I do apologize if you do get bored, but this stuff is necessary for what we're doing with VITA. Okay, the second piece I want to look at is the economic impact payments, okay, and that credit called the recovery rebate. Third thing here is the Affordable Care Act. Okay, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with taxes anymore because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but a lot of people still get their insurance off the marketplace, and they still get this form called a 1095A. You guys need to understand how to ask the question and make sure they give you the right documentation. Okay, is there a penalty for not having insurance? Not in 2020, there's not. There wasn't in 2019 either. So with the new Congress that we have, with the new White House administration, it's possible we could see some changes coming with the Affordable Care Act. But for 2020, there aren't any, so we don't have to worry about that. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll do a couple of these basic exam questions. We're going to do question 3 and question 4, and those are all both on page 34 of your testing booklet. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over here to my training guide, if I can find it. And here's where we're going to start. This is page 47 of your training guide. Okay. And basically, we're looking at who should file versus who must file. Okay, you're going to see me scrolling through a lot of this stuff, so I do apologize about that, but really it's the only way I can get to where I want to be. Okay, so basically, not everyone has to file a tax return. Okay, so who must file? Okay, there are basically 3 things that you got to know in order to determine who must file. Okay, we have to know age, we have to know gross income, and we have to know filing status. Basically, we need to know, okay, what their standard deduction is. Once we know that, their gross income, if that's over the standard deduction, then they have to file. Okay, so that's the biggest thing. Okay, so their standard deduction can increase based on their age, but for this purpose, not if they're blind or not. Okay, and we'll see that when we get to some later videos here. So if the age increases their standard deduction, we take that into account here. Okay, we need to know their gross income and we need to know their filing status and where their standard deduction falls on those things. Okay, all right, what's gross income? All their income, and there's a line on the 1040 that asks that. Okay, all right, let's see, who's legally required to file a return? Some common situations that have nothing to do with the standard deduction. If they are self-employed and they have net earnings or profit of $400 or more, they have to file no matter what. Okay. If you owe any special taxes, you have to file. And if someone got a 1095A and they had advance payments of the premium tax credit, they have to file. So if anybody got a 1095A, they have to file no matter what. Okay, who should file? Everybody. Okay, everybody should file. And more people are going to be in this who should file simply because of the economic impact stimulus payments. Okay, but if you worked a job and you had federal taxes paid into the government, you should file because it's possible you could get those back. And the only way to get those back is if you file. Okay, if you have dependents, you should file because it's possible you get a credit that could be refunded to you because of that. Okay. The other reason I tell them everyone should file no matter what is because it starts the what do they call it? The statutory time frame for when the statute of limitations. Okay, so the IRS and you have 3 years to go back and look at previously filed returns. If you never file a return, that never starts, and they can go back and look at anything. Okay, if by filing a return you start the statute of limitations. Okay, and typically the statute of limitations for both you and the IRS is 3 years. Okay. So that's who should file versus who must file. Okay. All right. Verifying identity. Okay. Typically we want a driver's license. Okay. But if there's some kind of a state ID that is issued or a passport or anything, we can verify that way. Okay. Verifying social security numbers of people who aren't there normally takes a social security card, but not everybody has that. So typically I just take the customer's word for who's on the return, and I verify who that person is to them. I ask probing questions. Okay, that's a way to verify as well. But we do need to make sure that we're taking photo IDs of everyone who is filing. Okay, we don't typically file for decedents. So if someone comes in and they want to file the last tax return for someone who dies, we can do it, but you need an advanced person to do that. Okay, and we need to make sure that we get everything that we need from that individual. Okay, taxpayer identification numbers. Okay, social security numbers. These are for people who are born in the United States or who are legal residents of the United States and now U.S. citizens of the United States. Social security numbers allow you to work. Okay, ITINs, same kind of thing. Okay, only these individuals. Okay. ITINs are issued to people who are non-residents, okay, and other people living in the U.S. who are required to have it, but who don't get a social security number yet. Okay, they're unique because they start with 9s. That's how we know. And we do get a couple of individuals who come in who are using ITINs. Okay, why does it matter? Because depending on whether you have an ITIN or a social security number, it could affect some credits and deductions that you're allowed to take. Okay, and we'll see that when we get to the basic exam. Okay, all right, so I'm going to kind of walk through here. The appropriate forms and schedules that will be printed are according to the documents or according to the information that you put into TaxSlayer, so you really don't have to worry about that. Okay, we e-file everything we can. Okay, there are going to be customers that say, I don't want to e-file. I don't know why they do that, but you know what? If they don't want to e-file, they don't have to. We can print out paper returns. So we prepare it like normal, and then when it says, would you like to e-file this? You say, no, I want to do a paper return, and it'll print out everything that needs to be printed out. Okay, and then the taxpayer takes it and they sign it and they mail it off themselves. We have to make sure that whenever we do a paper return, we print out 2 copies, one for them to file and one for them to keep. Other than that, when we e-file, we just print out 1 copy of everything because we electronically file that for them. E-filing is awesome because it does it fast. Typically, I get something back that the return has been accepted within a couple of hours. So e-filing is what we want to do, but not everybody likes that. So we just have to make sure that we get confirmation from them what we'd like to do. Is it okay if I e-file your return? And most of them are going to say yeah. Okay. If we get any new people that come in, they're going to say, what's that? And you just say, well, we take all the information and we file it electronically with the IRS to get more information back quickly. And they'll probably go, okay. But for those individuals that want paper returns, that is okay. Okay. And just make sure you probe respectfully about that kind of thing there. All right, let's see, the last part in here, I think is, that's due diligence, page 8. So there is a portion in here on due diligence. I've talked to you guys already about due diligence in a prior video. Probing questions, that's due diligence. Okay, going through the intake interview process and looking at things, and if you're looking at it and you're like, ask a probing question, a respectful probing question. You know, I see that you marked this unsure. Why is that? You know, and let them do the talking. Okay, our big job is to listen. Okay, and make sure we make appropriate recommendations and we do the appropriate thing in VITA. And if you ever have questions about that, that's when you raise your hand and one of us will come over and we will answer your question to the best of our ability. Okay, all right. So that's kind of the end of filing basics. So if you want to take a break right now, you can. Okay. All right. So our next piece is looking at the economic impact stimulus payments. Okay. All right. Where did this go? Let's see. Why can't I get to that? Let me see. Oh, we're all the way up there. Okay, hang on a second. Let me see. I don't know why it's doing that. Here we go. Okay. Now I want page 8. Is that? Goodness, sorry. Okay, here it is. So yeah, that was weird. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so the economic impact stimulus payments. I'm betting a lot of you who are going through this training have probably received one. Okay, so the economic impact payments were basically for filers under certain AGI thresholds who were allowed to get either $1,200 per individual, okay, or $2,400 for married filing joint, plus $500 per qualifying child. Okay, and this was either put in bank accounts or checks were mailed, whatever it happens to be. And then there was a second one that was approved at the end of 2020, and that was an additional $600. Okay. I didn't qualify for any of this because my AGI is higher than $150,000. I think that's really low, and I'm disappointed with Congress for putting those AGI limits on there. Do I think there should be a limit? Yeah, but $150,000 for 2 people is really, really low. Okay, so I didn't qualify for any of it, so I'm not exactly sure how people received. I'm assuming it was either through direct deposit or through some kind of a check that we received. As far as the $600, I have no idea when that was a part of it, but I think what they're asking for is what you actually received in 2020. I'm not sure if they're adding that $600 into the number that we have to report on TaxSlayer, but it's possible, and I'll have more information a little bit later about that. Okay, so these payments are not taxable. But we have to ask the question, and it's on the intake interview form. Did you receive an economic impact stimulus payment in 2020? And if you did, what was the amount? Okay, was it $1,200? Was it $2,400? Was it an additional $500 per qualifying child? How much? They're going to know. Okay, they're going to know what they got. We have to have that information, and it has to be correct and accurate. And we put that right into TaxSlayer for matching purposes. Okay, why do we have to put it in there even though it's not taxable? Because it's possible they didn't get the full amount that they qualified for. Okay, because maybe babies were born, adoptions happened, things like that. Okay, so if they didn't get the full amount they qualified for, they're going to qualify for a recovery rebate credit, and that's on page 2 of the 1040. Okay, and that's just going to be for the amount that they should have gotten stimulus payment, but they didn't. Okay, so not everybody qualifies for the recovery rebate credit. Okay, just those people who didn't get the full amount of the stimulus payment they should have received. Okay, so that's new. That's something different that we're going to have to make sure that we deal with every return. But we have to ask the question on every single return. Okay, all right, so the last thing we want to talk about before we get to the basic exam questions that we're going to go through in this video. Okay, is the Affordable Care Act. Okay, I know there's a place in here for the Affordable Care Act. I'm not exactly sure where it is. Let's see if it's got it in here. Filing situations. Oh, the taxes. Tax credit 26. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of this. I want to walk over to my resource guide. Here's my training guide. I want that guy. Here, oh, it's not that guy. Here it is. Okay, so your training guide, the 4012 is awesome because this is something that you'll have at every single session you go to. And it's basically a quick guide that has a lot of flowcharts on it. So with the who must file, here are the numbers, and that's only dealing with the standard deduction. These don't include people who are dependents on another, or who have special situations, or people who are elderly, 65 and over. Okay, but it's got stuff in there. It's kind of cool. It's really neat. I really like this. When you're starting a return with filing status, they have all this cool stuff. They have these flow charts. They're so neat. That's why I love the resource guide, because it's basically a way for you guys to say, I need to know what they qualify for. Here's a decision tree. They do it with dependents too. They do it for the earned income credit. They do it for all sorts of stuff. There's also a tab in here for the ACA. And I don't exactly remember where it is. Income. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through here. I think it's like H or something like that. Adjustments. So when we go through income and adjustments and all that fun stuff, you can just use your resource guide. You don't have to use the training guide for any of this stuff. Non-refundable credits, it should be after. It might not have one either, because the Affordable Care Act, while it's relevant, yeah, I don't think it has it. Education, yeah. So I don't see it in there, but it's important because the Affordable Care Act came to be during the Obama administration, and it basically required everybody over a certain age and income to have health insurance. Okay? And what they did was they assessed a penalty if you didn't have the appropriate level of insurance for your filing status, for how many people lived in your home, for what your AGI was. Okay, so it's relevant in that the marketplace for buying insurance through the federal government or through your state, it still exists. And if you're getting that kind of insurance through the marketplace, what you're getting from the government is what's called a 1095A. Okay, these people know about it. No one is in the dark about this anymore. They know when they have a 1095A, they have to bring it to us. Okay, if they have insurance through the marketplace, we have to enter the information on the 1095A, or we can't complete the return at all. Okay, so the 1095A basically says who's covered under that particular plan. Okay, and it says who the covered individuals are, and it has the information. Okay, so the monthly enrollment premiums, okay, what the second lowest one is, and what their premium tax credit. The premium tax credit has everything to do with marketplace insurance and nothing to do with anything else. Okay, this is basically how much their insurance premium is reduced by an advance payment of the premium tax credit. Okay, if they got a 1095A, okay, that means they have a reduction in what they have to pay for health insurance, and that means they must file, and that all of this information in there has to be put into the tax return, or we cannot finish it. Okay, taxpayer won't even let us finish it if we say that they have marketplace insurance. Okay, sometimes it's easy like this, where everything is the same for all 12 months, and all you have to enter in is the totals. Sometimes it's all different, and you have to enter in all of this information line by line by line. Okay, so one of the good rules to know about forms, everything gets put in as is. Okay, we never change anything, we never round anything, it's just all as is, and that includes the 1095A. Okay, sometimes some taxpayers have more than one, and then we have to go into and make sure we get the right information entered. But this is common. A lot of our people who file with VITA have a 1095A form because they have marketplace insurance. Okay, if they don't have marketplace insurance, all we have to do is answer the question in TaxSlayer, do they have marketplace insurance? No, and that's it. Okay, that's the only information we get to ask because it doesn't matter anymore. There's no mandate. Once the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is expired, then the mandate comes back into place. But that doesn't happen until 2025. And with the new administration and the new Congress, they're all leaning Democrat. It's possible that we might see the mandate for health insurance, the tax penalty for health insurance come back into effect. But as far as we know for 2020, nothing. So all we have to worry about is whether they have marketplace insurance, and if they do, we need their 1095A. Okay. All right. So that's that. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to go to the last part of this video, okay, which is dealing with 2 exam questions, okay, and that is going to be on page 34, okay. So the basic scenario and test questions, so the basic exam actually starts on page 33, but like I said, I'm tailoring what questions I answered based on what we're covering in the training video. So I'm not going to cover these ones. I want to cover these ones in basic scenario 2. Okay. All right. So basic scenario 2 is about Marsha Perry. So she's 23, she's single, she can't be claimed as a dependent by another taxpayer. Okay. She has earned wages of $18,500 and had $1,500 of federal income tax withheld, meaning on her W-2 it said $18,500 as total income and $1,500 was box 2 withholding. She gave birth to Shelby on November 10th of 2020. Marsha paid all the costs of keeping up a home and support for Shelby. Shelby and Marsha are U.S. citizens and have valid Social Security numbers, and Marsha filed single with no dependents on her 2019 tax return and received a $1,200 payment for 2020, okay? Because in 2019 she didn't have any kiddos, but now she does, okay? And her stimulus payment didn't reflect that, so she's going to get a recovery rebate credit for Shelby on her tax return, okay? Which of the following statements is true? Marsha is required to file a tax return, okay? What we need to know is what is her filing status? Okay, she's single and she has a kiddo, okay? That means she's something called head of household, okay? So she is not required to file because the requirement for head of household filers that we saw is her standard deduction. Okay, and her standard deduction is $18,650. Okay, so the answer here, okay, she's not required to file. She does not qualify for the earned income credit because she's under the age of 25. That's only a requirement if, okay, they actually have no dependents. They don't have any qualified children in the home. But when you do have one, and she does, she has Shelby, okay, then she is going to qualify for the earned income credit because of that. Okay, Marsha is not required to file a return, but she should file a return to claim a refund of her federal tax withholding. Yepper. Okay, so the answer here to scenario 3 is B. Okay, all right. Marsha qualifies for a recovery rebate of $500 for Shelby. Yes. Okay, because her stimulus, economic impact stimulus, didn't reflect Shelby's arrival because Shelby didn't come until November. Okay, and one of the rules to the impact payments was if you have qualifying children in the home, you get $500 per qualifying child, in addition to $1,200 per taxpayer. Okay, so she should have got $1,700, but she didn't. Okay, so she gets a $500 refundable credit on her tax return. True. Okay. All right. So I realize it's kind of hard to split up these test questions because I don't cover everything in the training video. Okay. But eventually it will be covered. We'll talk about earned income credit. Okay, we'll talk about all this fun stuff. I mean, we already talked about the rebate credit, but we'll talk about everything that we're going to be going through. But a lot of this, is just, I answered question 3 because it was talking about is she required to file? And that normally comes back to her filing status. Okay. In the next video, I believe we do talk about filing status. We talk about dependents and filing status in the next one. So that information that I used to answer that question will become information that you can use in the next video. But that's it for this video. We'll move into video 5 with dependents and filing status coming up.